everybody, it's me, Laura, and today I'm back with another snowflake egg design. And okay, I should say egg design, not necessarily snowflake, but you know what I mean. Okay, anyway. So right away, we're going to start off with this slate blue type clay, and there's a little bit of a glitter in there, so you can mix your colors a little bit. And I'm a big one for mixing my clays together. So if you have a little bit of gray, a little bit of dark navy blue, and I want to say I use then some glitter, some silver glitter clay, and I mix it all together, you can get this nice slate. Anyways, I'm also bringing in my Ateco oval cutters, and I'm using the third smallest in that particular set, and I'm going to cut out my oval here on my gray clay, which has been rolled out on a number 4 setting. Now once you have that, use your blade to lift that up from the surface of your tile. And then bringing in my eggshell here, which has been pre-drained, go ahead and place that oval or center it onto the eggshell itself. Use your finger then to kind of move around and place that oval down. It might take you a couple of tries to try and figure out, okay, where the center might be on this egg. But then if you're really having trouble with it, I would bring in a couple of rubber bands and snapping them into place on your vertical part of the egg and on your horizontal part of the egg. Once you have those in place, take a pencil and draw them, and this way then you'll have a better way to put that oval down and find that nice look that you want. Now for me, I just do this naturally. Been doing it for many years, so what do you expect, right? But anyway, I'm also then going to bring in my Puocaun snowflake cutters. I love these cutters. Oh my gosh, I love these guys. They're just so awesome. Okay, she's losing it. Try again, right? Yeah, anyway, no, I love these cutters. They're so much fun. And so I'm bringing them in. I'm going to just pick out a couple of these, and we're going to cut out a couple of them on some white clay. Now this white clay has been rolled out on my number 4 setting with my Atlas pasta machine. I'm also going to bring in a piece of saran wrap. Now the thing I found about these cutters was, you can use your water release, with the spray bottle, or you can use your powder release and try and cut them out that way. But for me, I found this was really the best way. Bringing in just a small piece of saran wrap and then taking the cutter and cutting that through on the saran wrap. Now, you could tell here, I didn't cut completely through on that cutter. That was the other thing I did find with this particular method was that, it didn't always cut through all the way. And I was like, doggone it. Also on this, depending upon, I had a center part there. If the clay was a little bit thicker, that would have showed up also as an impression in the clay. I wanted to get this thinner. I didn't want it necessarily really, really thick. And sometimes with these particular cutters, you have to have a thicker clay to get all the impressions on them. Well, I didn't necessarily need that because later on you'll see what I mean by that when I bring in my Kempers. Now, I'm really making a nice, good impression in here. I go back in without the saran wrap on, and then this sometimes works to help release the other clay from the impressions. Sometimes it doesn't. You can see right there, it's like, okay, it's grabbing. That's when I would either bring in a needle tool or some kind of even an X-Acto knife. I do try to do it here with the particular cutter, and that works sometimes, but if you do get it off, it can also ruin the snowflake. So my suggestion is just go ahead and use that needle tool to help release the design from the excess clay you have around it. And as you could tell here, yeah, I got off on my cutter. I had to go ahead and redo the snowflake and, cut it out. Once I get this one cut out, I'm going to create a few more of these snowflakes. I'll be using the same kind of thickness of clay on the number 4 setting with the Atlas pasta machine and just creating a variation of different snowflakes to work into our snowflake egg design. Here's the thing, when trying to lift off some of these snowflakes, you're probably thinking this is going to get tricky, right? Well, look at what I'm doing here. I'm taking my blade and I'm just kind of doing this little back and forth, or almost like a scissor motion back and forth underneath the snowflake to lift it up off my surface, and this way then it won't distort as badly. That's really something you should try. I recommend it because it works great for me. So I did that, and then yes, I'm going to have little pieces, some little flaky parts that kind of come off. Use your needle tool or whatever, or even X-Acto knife. fold it under with your fingers if you have to, but you can get rid of that little extra fine clay that's around the flake itself. Anyway, once I had these two pieces, and it was like that piece and the other snowflake just above it, once I had that scissored off my surface, I needed to bring in another tool to really, I didn't make the impression, right? So because I didn't make the impression, what are you going to do with that center part? Well, the idea here was to bring in my Kemper cutters, and I'm using the smallest circle Kemper cutter that you have. You can use the other ones too. I had the heart and all the different ones, but I thought let's go ahead and use that and create that nice little hole in the center. It worked out beautifully. To me, this really completed up this snowflake design. I didn't necessarily need the indent that the cutter had, because I thought that's nice and everything, but it's also another like, okay, got to cut it out. It's easier with these Kemper cutters. I really recommend having the smaller ones. They offer such a nice thing. Even with the small ones right here, I thought, yeah, I just want to take out that center. And you're like, well, that's kind of a little bit plain, but guess what? We're going to add in some nice little rhinestones to that guy later on, and it'll make a huge difference to the whole design. Now, once I got those snowflakes fully cut out, I'm going to bring in my eggshell, and we're going to place a couple of snowflakes right underneath there. So I'm just going to take the one on top. I thought I really like that, and I like to put it, I don't like to center these things too much. I like movement in my designs, and so when I do that, I like to offset generally any kind of feature on my egg. So I'll put part of the snowflake on that oval, and then I'll bring in another snowflake, the other larger one, and I'll place it just under there. So it kind of creates a small amount of movement when you go to look at it, and it's a much nicer design to look at anyways, because there's some interest there. You're breaking the boundaries, I would say, of that particular oval. And I have a thing with that. I was never an inside the box kind of girl anyway. It's like, and for me, it's like, yeah, Lord doesn't even know what the box is. I love that. That's the fun part, right? That's the beauty of it. Anyway, I'm placing my two snowflakes down here, and then we're going to go ahead and bring in some maroonish, slightly magenta type clay, and then a beige, and we're going to create a stack from these two colors. All right, so I'm coming in with a slice of that stack, and I've rolled that out on my number 4 setting, so I've stretched out slightly. And what we're going to do is we're going to start cutting checker and making that row that I like to use with my blade. And I'm going to go ahead, and I want to say this particular strip that I'm making is 1/8 of an inch in width, okay? And I want to say the length of this, or I should say the stack itself, the height of this was about 1/2 of an inch. So this is a pretty delicate little piece of checker that we're going to go ahead and place around onto the oval of our eggshell. All right, so now we're going to create that band that goes around the vertical axis of the eggshell itself. This clay has been rolled out on a number 5 setting on my Atlas pasta machine, and we're just going to cut a band of about a half of an inch in width and then however long you need. So if you need to create a paper guide, you can do so. Now the thing I'm bringing in here, this is a little photo album I bought online, and it holds some of these really neat silk screens that you can use on polymer clay. And that's what I'm using here. I'm bringing in my champagne metallic folk art paint, and this particular set of silk screens had this little, oh, I don't know, it was a little applicator, if you will, to help bring in and put the paint down onto the silk screen. And I love this. It's so nice. Now, I'm being very careful here. I like doing it this way because I could put all of that paint onto the little applicator, and I take it right up to the edge, but I don't go over. And the nice thing about doing it this way is there's less muss, less fuss, and the paint just doesn't get everywhere. You have it on that band and it's wonderful. Now my recommendation here is to take that silk screen, just as I did right there after I tore it off, and put it in water to take off all the extra paint so it doesn't clog up the silk screen, so you can reuse it again like I'm going to do here. So I brought the thing in and I thought, I want this to go down the full length of that gray clay. I'm placing that silk screen down one more time, just kind of matching it up to the other, bringing in that paint, and I'm going to go right over it once more so I can get that continuous snowflake design all the way through onto this slate blue clay. Now once I get that fully covered, I'm lifting it off again, and look at how wonderful that worked. And then I'm bringing that silk screen and I'm just rubbing off lightly the extra paint from that silk screen so it can be reused, and same with the little paddle there. And really, these, guys, I love these silk screens. They are wonderful and they work so great. I'll then bring in a towel, and please forgive my towel, it's very yucky, but it's just to dry it off so I could pat it back down and then flip that clay around and put that pattern on the other side as well. At this point, the clay has dried when it comes to that paint design of the snowflakes on top, and I'm going to cut this where I have about a ½ inch of a design, a nice band, and once I have that ½ inch, I'm going to wrap that around the vertical axis of the eggshell. So from the top of the egg, I'm starting to lay this band that goes right around my eggshell, and use your finger just to pat it down lightly all the way around until it joins up on the other side. Then take your blade and cut it flush, and you have a nice little band there. Now that I have that band around the vertical axis of the egg, the thing is, I thought I need to go ahead and start kind of prepping the snowflakes with those rhinestones. So I'm going to bring them in and I'm going to place them around the snowflakes just to kind of give them that nice highlight. And remember too, we have not baked this egg yet. So when you're doing this, do it very gently, do it kind of carefully with a light touch. That will help a lot. Once I got some of these rhinestones in place though, I decided let's go ahead and add in a couple of little balls to that little blue field, kind of like snow falling, smaller snow in the background or whatever. And this really does help the design just slightly, because I was like, yeah, we need just a little bit more. And then I took my knitting needle, or my smallest knitting needle, and made the indent into those balls so it would look really nice just overall for the design. Once I got those little white balls set into the front part on the eggshell there, I decided to bring in another piece of that stack and create up this checker one more time, and we're going to place that around that middle band we have running around the vertical axis of the eggshell. I thought that would just be a nice highlight and detail to enjoy and make sure that it ties into the front part of the egg when it comes to the design itself. Once I got all of that checker placed around onto this egg, I then baked this egg at 275 degrees or 300, depending upon what clay you're using. And I baked this for about 7 minutes. Now, if you're in a different climate from me, I'm in a high, dry desert, so my stuff bakes a lot faster. So check your area where you live. That makes a huge difference on how long it's going to take when it comes to baking this egg in the oven. Okay, now we're going to start working on the back side of this egg, and I've taken and cut out another strip from that stack on that magenta beige type thing that I created. Well, here's the deal. I'm going to create another set of checker. We're going to run that around the outside edge on the other side of our snowflake pattern that's going around the vertical axis of the egg. And I do use a little bit of super glue to kind of get this started and put in place. As I keep running this particular checker around the edge, I am going to use a little more super glue here and there just to kind of keep it in place so it doesn't move and it doesn't go anywhere. Now, I know most of you are like going, okay, super glue and in the oven. No, this works okay. I've done it so many times, not to worry. It's only a small amount. You know, if you were to put probably a ton of super glue on something and put it in the oven, yeah, I think I'd have a little bit of an issue there. But for what I've done and through the years as I've used it, I've never had an issue using super glue and baking it in the oven. When you use super glue on the unbaked clay in the oven, are there any, bad things that could possibly happen? From what I have seen, I really have never had any problems. Does it lose a little bit of its, stickability to the eggshell? I have not had that much of a problem with it. And remember, this is an egg. It's not like you're going to wear it like jewelry, okay? Jewelry, yeah, you want to make sure the thing, stays together. And generally a clay to clay, the liquid clay, it works. But in this case, you're not doing really clay next to it except for the band, and even then it's been baked. And yes, you could use a little bit of liquid clay there, but like I said, you want this to adhere to the shell, and that adhesion from the shell to the clay, you really need a good epoxy, and so I use my super glue. Anyways, from right there, I've gotten the band all the way around it, and now we're going to bring in a little bit of that patterned, gray clay with the snowflakes on it. And I'm going to cut a nice little, I want to say it's like from like a nice little strip. And it's not it's going to be like from one point to another. I do a little bit of a weave. I thought, yeah, let's just see what we can do with that. I pull that up and I'm going to place that down and create a little bit of a curly Q design on the back side using this patterned clay. And as I do so, I thought, yeah, let's make a little bit of curl. So I'll start at the top, bring it around in a nice little, a little curl it around, and then I'll bring my snowflakes in that I have left over and place them around onto this little, gray type clay with the snowflake pattern on it. Once I get my snowflakes in place though, I'll go ahead and also bring in some of those rhinestones and just highlight each of those snowflakes. All right, so the top, or I should say the back side of the eggshell has not been baked yet, or we haven't done another baking. So I wanted to bring in just one more snowflake because I wanted to place that on the top, and this will be kind of our area where we're going to be placing the top part to hang it. And in doing so, make sure that you place in your rhinestones ahead of time. So I kind of wanted to position it just to see what it would look like. And then I'm going to bring in some of my little rhinestones and they're going to be placed into this snowflake. Once I have all of those rhinestones placed into the snowflake though, I'm going to lift that up and I'm going to place it on the egg. I just wanted to see what it would look like, okay? But then you're going to take that snowflake off of the eggshell and bake this and the egg separately for whatever time you need to make sure that it is thoroughly baked through. Once you have that though, I'm bringing in a little bit of clay here. That was about 1/4 of an inch maybe in diameter of a small ball, creating a small little teardrop type thing. And now I'm going to go ahead and create a little loop with my 22 gauge wire. I'm going to cut it off where I have a little bit of a stem on there, and then I'm going to take a little bit of super glue and sink that into the top part of the egg. So once I do this, now the snowflake has been attached in and I've let the glue dry with that, but the top part hasn't. And the reason why is because we're going to take that top part right back out again and bake it separately. That needs to be baked separately, and the reason is because the hole that's at the top of this egg, you don't want to put the whole thing into the oven with the top attached in because it might just pop. And what I mean is the pressure of the air inside the egg could make the entire thing kind of just break the shell, and you got an entirely big mess. So here, this whole thing has been baked. We're letting that top part bake separately. And then when the top part or the little hanger part has been thoroughly baked and cooled off, we'll glue that back into the center part of where that snowflake is. Now here's the thing. I was going to go thoroughly with just the little rhinestones into the snowflakes, but the more I looked at that rhinestone chain, I couldn't say no. So, I just thought, let's go ahead and put some in anyway, right? And the funny thing is that I had a few little areas where I had placed that checker where it had not looked really great. And when I placed the rhinestone chain in, it made all the difference in the world. And it seemed to make it where it was like it finished it up really nicely. So if you think that when you're placing around your checker and it doesn't look really great, and you want to try and make it look just a little bit better, sometimes my rhinestone chain, I will have to say, is the solution to it, and it adds a little flash. And who doesn't like a little flash? So that's what I just added into the very back end here of this eggshell, and I just love the design even more. All right, so this is the end result of creating my snowflake eggshell design with polymer clay. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Also, just so you guys know, I've now moved over to Blue Sky, so if you want to look me up there, you can. Look up Laura's Eggs.bsky.social and you'll find me there. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest of hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.